I don't understand Police Quest 4 open season, and I'd like to. Maybe we can understand it together. Let me set the scene for you. Every previous game in the Police Quest series had this odd weight and arc to their play, because the creative lead, former State Highway Patrolman Jim Walls, had a soul that was one half 2020 indie developer and wanted to make a punishing, true-to-life police procedure simulator enforced by murdering you for not performing vehicle inspections or incorrectly approaching a car or not conducting a traffic stop properly. But the other half of his soul wanted to make a cheesy 80s crime action comedy movie where drug cartels, satanic cults, and jihadists, back when hijacking a plane was prime humor material, are all doing evil things for presumably self-evident reasons until you stop them. And the game was made at Sierra, which meant lots of their particular style of jokes and difficult interfaces. But these games are not just King's Quest with a police coat of paint. Jim Walls wanted to sell the police experience. The marketing stressed that some of these stories were based on events from Walls' real life. He considered the game to be successful when he got fan mail from kids who wanted to become real police officers. Heck, the founding myth of the series has Ken Williams talking to his hairdresser about how he'd love a police-themed game, but darn it, they just need to find a real police officer to write the story. That hairdresser? Wall's wife, and Walls himself was just languishing at home, recovering after a shootout. So, Walls is brought on board over racquetball games, learns to type with his 2 index fingers, and we get Police Quests 1 to 3, the saga of Sonny Bonds in the little but booming SoCal town of Lytton. The times are good, but by the end of Part 3, times are changing. Graphics have substantially improved, of course, with the media switch to CDs, meaning we can handle actual live-action video as long as it's compressed to within an inch of its life. Video game writing is changing at Sierra, too. Maybe it's a reflection of the professionalization of the industry, but there are fewer nerdy programmer dad jokes and characters turning to wink at the camera, and, more stuff you might describe as gritty. The team at Sierra is changing too. Walls leaves, and to the best of my knowledge, no one's done a full interview as to the reasons. There are just enough hints to make you think it wasn't totally amiable on both sides. This is, again, Sierra when Sierra was big. Replacing Walls as a police consultant, they absolutely swing for the fences and get Daryl Gates, the former chief of police for Los Angeles. As far as cops go, he's about as high profile as they come. He was police chief in LA during a, let's say, turbulent time. He's known as the founder of DARE programs and SWAT teams, but also Operation Hammer and the Rodney King protests. Of course, he's not a writer, so they bring on board Tammy Dargan, a former editor for America's Most Wanted. This is a cast of talent that's about as good as you could ask for in making a police-themed video game. Comes out in 1993, maybe not the absolute dead center of Sierra's golden age, but even the most cautious rats wouldn't be fleeing this ship at this point. The Gabriel Knight series starts the same year, and the big franchises were all riding high. There was more Quest for Glory, King's Quest, Dr. Brain, Roger Wilco, Leisure Suit Larry to come. The company was buying new buildings, hiring more staff. Life was good. They wanted to make some more adventure games. Daryl Gates, he says, wanted to make a game that really showed the daily life of a police detective. And the game was to be set in the city and in the time that he knew best, LA, in the 80s and 90s. So, that's the stage. The biggest company, with a dream team of advisors, programmers, and writers. Their motivations are pretty clear too. Daryl Gates, the authoritarian voice of reason, wants to show people the job that he cares about, and wants to do so in a positive tone. Sierra wants to make it well and sell a lot of units. These are not outsiders making outsider art. This very much is your grandpa's video game. If you've never played the game, the product you're picturing them coming up with based on that is It's not the product that was delivered. What we instead get is the creeping unease of a slowly building pressure cooker mood of an alienated and frustrated detective, angry at the press, the city, the department, as our leads just wilt into a disappointing mush. Just this long, sleepless parade of pointless busywork and delays, selfish public, angry chief, a hostile press, until every possibility finally tapers out, at which point the plot, out of absolutely nowhere, explodes into an honest-to-God Lynchian psychosexual nightmare. The kind of thing that makes people write pages of fan theories about how the last chapter of the game is actually the dying dream of the protagonist or whatever. So divorced from the rest of the plot is it. The game doesn't sell well. It's lambasted even at the time for racism and its plot. It abruptly ends the adventure game portion of the Police Quest series. The rest of the series switches to tactical squad shooters. This is the SWAT series. Believe it or not, this was a treasured childhood game of mine, but as I replayed it, I realized that all my memories of it focus on a few early game scenes that I had largely forgotten the entire middle of the game. I think I got through by calling the Sierra hint line a lot, and that the end of the game made me uneasy. I remember finishing it quickly, I put it away, and I didn't replay it until recently. I didn't understand the game as a kid, and I still don't, but I think we've got the tools to peel it apart now. This is a game that exists very deeply in LA, kind of. In LA, not as you'd see it from a distance, because the places, the streets, and the neighborhoods matter and connect together, but also not in LA as you'd see it from too close. This game is about LA as it exists in the mind of an establishment law and order policeman who doesn't actually live where it's set. The characters that seem out of place, the story beats that seem so weird and foreboding, are not there by chance. They are the resentments and grudges of a man who was pushed out of his job for reasons he never accepted as legitimate. If some characters seem like walking stereotypes, that's because a stereotype was as closely as he knew them. Playing through the game, I felt like I was watching a construct made by his subconsciousness, and not just his. A showrunner responsible for dramatizing crime for a daily show, and a team of programmers used to making these whimsical and wacky games are tugging and pulling at the fabric of this game world. So, I want to walk through this game again, slowly. I want to understand how well or poorly Daryl Gates' LA matches with reality. I want to figure out why this story was written the way it was written. I want a map of this guy's mind, and I want to understand LA like a cartographer, like a historian. I want to see how much of what they were dealing with in late 80s, early 90s LA is the same as today. What's changed? So let's jump in. It's 3 in the morning. We're a detective in South Central LA with bad posture in a too big polyester suit, and we just heard that our best friend got murdered. Let's play.